Right now, the BBC has announced that one of its flagship shows, Top Gear, will not return for the foreseeable future.
That's after the corporation reached a settlement with presenter Andrew Flintoff, thought to be worth around £9 million, following his very serious accident and injuries that he suffered on set. Joining us now is a good friend of mine, former Top Gear presenter Steve Berry. Steve, thanks for joining us this morning, pal, on Talk Today. Initial reactions from you, loads of people responding, but from you, an ex-presenter, the end of the line for Top Gear. How do you feel about that?
Well, there's one easy way to freak out a millennial. There are lots of easy ways to freak out a millennial.
Yeah.
But one of the best ones is to tell them that Doctor Who went missing for 16 years. They have to rush to their phone immediately to confirm that that actually happened. And of course, the older one amongst us know well that it happened. My mate bought a Dalek off the BBC, a real one, which is now worth a fortune, because they thought they'd never need him again. It was done and finished. Sylvester McCoy killed it off, consigned to history. Top Gear will be back for the same reason that Doctor Who came back. Money.
Money.
The rest for 4 or 5 years until people forget the unpleasantness, and then it will be brought back with a new format, as James May himself, St. James, has said today. New format in a few years' time when everybody's forgot the nastiness.
Well, speaking of the nastiness, Steve, obviously there've been several quite serious accidents taking place on the show. I love the show. It was absolutely a staple of my teenage years and beyond. It was
millennial.
That Sunday night. I knew I was going back to school when I heard the Top Gear theme tune coming on, so I'd stay up and watch it with my dad. But there seems to have been tragedy after tragedy, and I wonder if there's a pressure now with BBC shows competing with streamers, etc., different shows on Amazon, that they have to go more extreme with the challenges, more extreme with their cars. Do you think that is something that has ultimately led to, an increase in the amount of accidents that have ended up happening on the show?
Not particularly increasing the number of accidents, because, somebody asked me about, when you talk about those tragedies, I was very nearly one of them. I put a Lotus, ask Mr. Carl sat next to you, a Lotus Europa in a ditch upside down, and it started to sink into the ditch, which was full of water. Fortunately, I managed to kick my way out of the windscreen and bury my way out of the car. That never made it to the press, but that was back in the old days when Fleet Street used to do deals with people like the BBC over storage. Yeah. Health and safety came in. I went from being a presenter to being a director. And all of a sudden, in the 2000s, health and safety people appeared, which was great, because sometimes, as a programme maker, you get all excited about what you're doing and you think, let's top what we did last time. Let's make it bigger, more exciting, more spectacular. Unfortunately, there started to be people who'd say, hold on a second, what if everybody gets horribly killed? So people who mourn about health and safety, I started off in the world of work as a roofer in Manchester in the 80s. So when people mourn about health and safety, I think, yeah, you've never done a proper day's work in your life. Health and safety has saved a lot of people from death or serious injury. Them as whinge about it are always desk pilots. They've never been out there on the 4th floor of a mill in Oldham in the middle of winter.
Listen, I know you of old who'd want to be out there in the middle of winter. Listen, on a serious note, pal, is it not indicative, actually, also, of programmes that... Nick might agree with this, actually. The programmes that work, a format that works, and yet the world changes and everything's modernised and we've got to do more, we've got to push this boundary, we've got to appeal to this group. Top Gear, with the greatest respect to everybody who's ever presented it since them, with Clarkson, May and Hammond, was absolutely, as Nick said, I watched it, I wasn't as addicted to say your dad watched it every Sunday, but it was the programme, wasn't it? Everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
Is it better at some points to just go, don't change it, it's at its time, rest it, or just stick to what you know best? Maybe they push the boundaries too much, Steve. That's what I reckon, maybe.
I remember being probably like you, Jezza. I think we were about a month apart in age. Oh. I remember being a young punk rocker and walking to the record shop, and there was always a late 40s Teddy boy. This is the mid-70s. A late 40s Teddy boy still wearing the draped suit that he bought in 1959, hanging around outside the record store. It was like And that, to an extent, is Clarkson, Hammond and May. Those guys epitomised the best programme making of the early 2000s. But television's moved on. They've moved on. I mean, you know, how old's Jeremy now? 65, 66?
Wow, that makes you the same age, you cheeky man. Listen, quickly, because we could speak all morning. But you're saying, Steve, ex-presenter, director as well, you think it'll be rested and then it will come back. We, of course, send our best wishes to Freddie Flintoff, who I know really well. But you're saying it will come back, right?
Yeah, what happened to him was terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, when you see the guy before it happened, what a national treasure and such an ebullient guy. And then the last footage that we've seen of him, he seems to, well, I don't know, but obviously it's had a massive effect on the guy.
He's on the mend.
He's on the mend.
Something, mate. I'm looking forward to you interviewing me about Top Gear coming back. I reckon let's put 20 quid in it. No less than 4 years, no more than 6
20 quid.
years. It'll be back.
Stevie B, you're a ledge. Thanks, pal.